It is officially time to enter your self-love era. Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Mara and I love coming onto YouTube to chat all things spiritual development, self-development, self-growth, and of course self-love, which is what today's video is all about. And this video is going to be your 5-step guide to achieving more self-love in your life. And this is not going to be your fluffy surface level self-love video. This is going to be the really deep work and subconscious reprogramming that you need to enter your self-love era, but also knowing that this self-love era is going to remove obstacles and barriers for you. It is going to open up a world of opportunities for you and really allow you to step into living your best, your highest, your most romanticized version of life, which is what we absolutely all deserve. So when you are ready, let's dive straight in. Maybe you grab yourself a notebook and pen. Maybe you've got like a nice hot drink with you for this, because we have got a lot to cover today. Now, first things first, your number one step for beginning this self-love journey, and this is probably, I'm gonna say, one of the hardest steps here, is what we call shadow work. Now, if you have never heard of shadow work before, what this means is going into some of the areas within your own mind, within your own subconscious, where things are a little bit scary in there, right? The thoughts that maybe we don't say aloud, the things that we say to ourselves in terms of self-talk, and when we're saying really negative things, those are often our shadows. And when we think about shadow work, what our aim is to do is our aim is to really look into the parts of ourselves that we think we don't like and bring them into the light. And when we do this, it really stops them from taking power and taking control over us. So what this might look like and where this might start for you is looking at your self-dialogue. So what things do you say to yourself? What is your shadow self saying to you? That you look really ugly, or you're not capable, or you're not good enough, or you've got imposter syndrome, or why would you even think that would work out for you, or oh god, my god, that looks so awful on you. These are all your shadow self talking. And this first step of shadow work is acknowledging that, okay, that is my shadow self talking. That is not my highest self talking. I'm beginning to almost detach from some of those things and observe them rather than fully being in them. So a really, really good practice with this, and this is really going to depend on how self-aware you are of your own shadow. If you are super self-aware, you may find that actually you can really observe the shadow as it is. Whereas if this is your first time maybe working with it, something that can be really helpful is when you hear those sort of shadow thoughts, or when you hear those slightly self-critiquing thoughts, is actually to write them down. And whilst so many times I wouldn't encourage you giving them space, for this we really need to get them out so that we can clear them. So maybe just taking out your journal and being like, these are what my shadow says to me that I know aren't true, and going through and listing them all off. Maybe at the moment you do think they're true. I still want you to lift them off, and I guarantee you're gonna read back some of them and be like, gosh, that looks really silly, but I'm gonna write it down anyway. Because the truth is that we're saying these things in our mind, even though externally we know that they're silly, the shadow doesn't. Okay, so beginning to go in and do this shadow work is so important, and really seeing the root of where these, I guess, insecurities and the things that we don't love about ourselves begin. So often we have this feeling that, okay, a really common thing that women don't love about themselves is their body, right? We have a lot of hatred towards our bodies as women quite often. Usually that's not actually the root of the problem, and this is why shadow work is so important. Why do you feel that way about your body? Is it because you feel like you're then not measuring up to what you think you could be? Does it stop you from then doing the things you want to do? Is it making you feel as if you're not good enough to do the things you want to do? Is it causing you to constantly compare? Is actually that issue you have with your body coming from comparison versus actually what you think about yourself, and really seeing the root of the problem rather than seeing the emotion that it evokes? So this is going to be a really, really good practice activity for you to begin with, and we can do this here together now. So just taking a moment to think about, okay, what are some of like the worst things that I say to myself? And we say them to ourselves anyway, so we can be honest with ourselves here. Know that that's my shadow talking. Okay, now that I've observed that this is as bad as it gets, these are the horrible things I say to myself, now I can begin to work with this. So once you have identified the shadow and you've begun to do this shadow work, this is where we can move on to step 2. Now, step 2, once you know the areas that you can be really hard on yourself and you are feeling the opposite of self-love, I need you to stop punishing yourself. I need you to stop being horrible to yourself, because all you're doing is perpetuating a cycle here of I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough, I don't like myself, so I'm going to punish myself for it. We need to stop punishing ourselves. So if your punishment is I'm not going to eat because I don't love myself, we need to stop that. We really need to stop that. Or if your punishment is I'm not going to buy that thing because it doesn't look good on me right now, or your punishment is I'm not going to put myself out there because I'm not the person I want to be right now, I need you to stop punishing yourself. All this is an act of self-sabotage. What you're doing here is you are continuing to keep yourself in this state of fighting with who you are, fighting with your being, and not actually allowing yourself to step into who you want to be. And you are not going to find more self-love by punishing yourself more and more and more. Instead, what I need you to do is, instead of punishing yourself, we've stopped punishing ourselves. Moving on to step 3 is not only do we no longer punish ourselves, but we're going to forgive ourselves. And not punishing and forgiveness are 2 different steps, because you might stop punishing yourself for things but still find it really hard to forgive that really embarrassing thing that you did, or forgive the mistakes that you've made. And quite often when we struggle with self-love, if we've made what feels like a really big mistake, or we've made bad decision, or something hasn't worked out and we're being really critical on ourselves because of that, I need you to forgive yourself. Something that really resonates with me when it comes to forgiveness for myself is we're only doing the best that we can do with what we knew at the time. So even if now I would do things differently, past version of me was doing the best she could with what she had. She was doing the best she could with the knowledge that she had, with the emotional maturity that she had. So even if now I regret it, I know that it's all part of the process and I can forgive myself for that. So whatever it is that really holds you in this feeling of maybe forgiving yourself for, again, a lot of women's self-hatred and dislike for themselves does come with their relationship with their body. And I could do a whole video on improving that relationship with your body. But for today's video, I just really want you to think about, okay, am I punishing my body, for example? Now, can I forgive my body, right? So maybe my body I haven't been looking after my body the best I could have done. I've not been nourishing it the way I could. I need you to also forgive yourself for that, because we are not going to achieve any self-love from hatred. We can't. It just doesn't work. You cannot create love from hate. So the minute we forgive ourselves, we start on neutral ground, and from here we can begin to cultivate love. There are a lot of ways you can begin to practice forgiveness for yourself. This could be simply in no longer punishing, but also creating space for you to start to step into that version. It could be letting go of things that you have done in the past, no longer holding yourself to that standard anymore, no longer blaming yourself for that. However it is you find forgiveness for yourself, this is a really important part of the process, and it may also take time, right? Forgiveness doesn't always happen overnight. Sometimes it does, and you're like, you know what? I'm done. I forgive myself. We're no longer doing that. And that actually really moves me on to my next step for self-love is, and this also might help you with the forgiveness aspect, and this is where we really begin to cultivate self-love. So from the forgiveness, we've created ground zero. There's a little bit less hatred. We've got kind of a neutral ground to create love from now. And from here, one of the best tools to cultivate self-love is the use of affirmations. So affirmations are truly incredible because we know that sound carries vibration. That's how things work, right? Think of when you go to a rave and everything is vibrating. Sound carries vibration. The universe is vibration. Words also carry vibration. Now, there are some words that really produce a very high vibration, loving words, joyful words, whereas words of hatred and fear are some of the lowest vibrations. So when we use positive affirmations, what we're doing is we're actually creating positive and high vibrations within us. Now, we know that as women, it has been scientifically proven that women have twice as many thoughts as men during a day. And what is so unbelievably sad about this is almost 70% of those thoughts are negative about themselves. So many of our time, our days are wasted by being mean to ourselves. And if we're constantly repeating these negative, harmful, critical things to ourselves, all we're doing is reaffirming this low vibration. So the use of affirmations is a really, really beautiful way to reprogram the brain into a more positive vibration in terms of our relationship with ourselves and to create self-love. And there is actually an experiment that shows the effects of different words on a glass of water. And I'm going to link that experiment below because you will see that the glass of water that had really hateful, neglectful words said to it, got really gross and horrible, whereas the glass of water that had beautiful, loving things said to it was absolutely fine and was really flourishing and just in perfect condition. And we also see this in plants. I know so many people say speaking kindly to your plants helps them to grow. It's proven, right? So we really do see the effects that these affirmations and positive words can have. So for you, what I need you to do is to create positive affirmations about yourself. I love my body. I love myself. I love the way I look. I am beautiful. I am capable. I am good enough. Any affirmation that really hits that shadow spot. And this is why that shadow work is so important, because if you don't know where your lack of self-love roots from, we can't fix it, right? So creating an affirmation based on those shadows. And my favorite thing to do with this, and this is particularly good for, I would say for body self-love, but also for any kind, is what I call a circuit breaker. Now, a circuit breaker is where we actively stop ourselves to reprogram no matter what we're doing. So for example, the way a circuit breaker might work is you've looked in the mirror, you've seen an outfit and it's not suiting you, like, oh my God, I hate the way I look. Oh my God, I look so ugly. We circuit break, stop. No, I'm not doing that anymore. And I will say to myself in my mind, wait, no, we're not doing that anymore. I love myself. I love my body. And every time a negative thought comes up, stop. We don't do that anymore. I love my body. I love the way I look, or I am capable. I am good enough. And these circuit breakers have honestly been one of the most fantastic things for me in my own personal practice. I feel like the introduction of those circuit breakers has been so, so great. So I really, really do think that the use of circuit breakers with affirmations and allowing them to follow any negative words you say to yourself, because they're not all going to completely go away. That's not how this works. And at first, you're not going to believe it, right? At first, these positive affirmations, you may not believe a word that you're saying to yourself. But little by little, day by day, and I really recommend every morning putting them on your bathroom mirror, repeating them to yourself, little by little, every day, you are going to find that you become a little bit more loving to yourself, and this self-love begins to grow and begins to be cultivated. So that is honestly my biggest tip for self-love. Moving on to the fourth step to self-love, and this one is one of my favorites. And I think we've all heard that, you know what, self-love isn't all fluffy nice things, right? And there is an element of self-love where we need to be quite disciplined, is the word a lot of people use. So like doing that workout when you don't really want to do it, and eating healthy when you don't really want to, or whatever it might be. And I love this idea. I really appreciate this idea, and I think it's very, very important to look after yourself for the highest good. However, I do think that this idea of discipline carries an energy of force, right? It carries this feeling of, I have to do this, like, and I'm not going to see the benefit from this right now. It really enforces this idea of what's known as delayed gratification, which is great. However, I really think that when we shift discipline towards this idea of devotion, I am doing this because I am so devoted to the person I am now and the person that I'm becoming. I'm not doing this workout because I'm disciplined, I know it's going to be good for me. I'm doing this workout because I'm so devoted to my own health, and I'm so devoted to the person I'm becoming, and I love myself so much that I know I deserve this. One is coming from a space of still a little bit of lingering dislike for ourselves, whereas one is coming from a space of unconditional self-love. And it also holds space for, you know what, the most devoted version of me today doesn't need a really intense HIIT workout. She needs a soft yoga class. right? And if you do want a self-love yoga class, I am actually going to link one below because I do have one of those live on my channel, so feel free to go and check that out after this video. But this idea of shifting discipline to devotion is one of the most pivotal towards your self-love practices, because it really changes the energy around them, and it really gets to the root of doing everything from a space of love, which is honestly so unbelievably life-changing. Now, moving on to our last step towards achieving more self-love, and this is a nice one. This is treating yourself. Now, I mean this in two ways. The first way I mean treating yourself is treating yourself like someone you love, right? So what would you say to someone you love? You would tell them how amazing they are. You would tell them how talented they are. You would tell them how capable they are. You would treat them like everything you knew that they could do. I need you to start treating yourself like someone you love. And a really good way to start practicing to do this is with what's known as inner child work. So imagining that when you want to start being your own biggest cheerleader and treating yourself a little bit better, imagine the younger version of you, the child version of you, who was so unbelievably perfect and full of light and truly did not ever mean any harm or malice. And not that you mean that now, but we can just see the pure soul in the child in us, right? You're still that soul. That soul is still within you. You still have the purest of souls and are filled with so much love. I want you to start talking to yourself like that. And if you need to imagine little baby you in order to do that, that's absolutely fine. Another really good way to do this is what's known with mirror work, and really allowing yourself to sort of sit in front of the mirror and just say nice things to you and kind of detach from the fact that that's you on the other side of the mirror. Imagine you were observing yourself like a stranger. What would you notice about her? How beautiful is she? How joyful is she? How much energy does she have? How pretty is her smile? How pleasant is she just in terms of her energy? How strong is she? How determined is she? All of these really, really beautiful things, and almost observing yourself as an outsider can be a really, really good way to also start treating yourself better and change that inner dialogue even further. And then of course there's the fun way of treating yourself of, if you have been self-sabotaging and not buying yourself that thing because your body doesn't look the way it should, or not allowing yourself to rest because you haven't achieved what you wanted to achieve, whoa, I need you to start treating yourself like that now. When we embody the highest version of ourselves now, we become the highest version of ourselves. So if you start treating yourself like someone you love and are proud of and are so devoted to right now, you become her. So right now, today, I need you to start treating yourself like your dream girl, like you're the main character, like you have the most romantic life, like you are everything you know you want to be, because that's the first step towards becoming her. Now, that is my 5 steps to achieving more self-love. Please know that this is a process and it takes time. It's not going to happen overnight, and it truly is a journey, but it is one that is honestly going to change your life and it's going to open so many doors for you. And you know, something you must always remember is that whenever we're aiming towards achieving these things, we are never aiming towards a consistent state of self-love. You achieving self-love might look like, you know what, 90% of the time I love myself. Some days I wobble, and that's fine. We all wobble. But what I want for you is that for more days than you don't, to be utterly in love with yourself and to be just so loving towards everything you do and everything you can achieve. With that being said, that is everything from me. I am sending you so much love. If you enjoyed this video, please do like and subscribe below. If you want to flow with me, I am a yoga teacher. Feel free to come and explore my online yoga membership. You'll also find a lot of meditations and rituals on there, which are really, really good for self-love too. If you want a self-love yoga class, also linked below. Let me know if there are any other videos like this you would like to see, and I will see you in our next video here on my channel. Bye guys.